There's a certain inherent insecurity that a man has that he's a provider, and yet she's always going to be a greater provider because what she receives from him, she upgrades it and gives it back to him. I want to just share with you one of the hardest things about being a man. I'm going to put it out there because I think it'll create greater shalom bayis, greater peace in your home, if you'll understand this pain point that almost all men experience to some degree. I told you before, masculinity is about doing. Another way of saying that is providing, being the initiator, the giver. That's what masculinity is. But then I told you femininity is not a truly passive recipient. She takes that, turns around, amplifies it, infinitely upgrades it, and gives it back. I'm not asking you for pity. I just want you to consider this. Do you understand then how strange it is to be a man when intuitively you're aware that your entire function is to be a provider, to be a giver, specifically a giver to your feminine counterpart, and that your whole identity is about being a giver, and at the end of the whole process, who's the bigger giver? She's a bigger giver than you. And you'll never be the kind of giver that she is.
I was jealous of my wife. And I'm saying this pretty much in response to my last video to further back up the claim of why I feel like I know that there's underlying aggression and hatred and jealousy towards women these days from some of the men that we hear on social media or on the other platform. But hear me when I say jealous. It wasn't a jealousy to the point where I wanted to harm my wife. I was jealous of the fact of how much I loved her. I loved her so much, and I saw how much I loved her, how much favor God showed her through me, and how much favor God just showed her all in general. And the reason why it drove me to a point where my relationship with God was hindered, because I just felt like, Lord, I love this woman so much, and I see how you love on her. And I was really jealous, and I'm the one taking care of this woman. And it's like, how am I mad about how I'm treating somebody? Like, I'm treating her good, and I'm mad that I'm treating you good. Because deep down inside, I always wanted to be loved and taken care of like that by the Lord. And on my walk with Christ, it's been a lot of times where I feel like, God, I'm just out here. I got to work for everything. Nothing comes to me easy. I got to struggle. I got to scrape my knuckles against the ground. I'm just being honest and transparent because it's real out here. I love my wife dearly. When my wife was in school finishing her undergraduate degree, she said, babe, this last semester is getting really tough. I would really like to just focus on school and not work. And I said, you know what, babe? It's okay. Stay at home. Finish your degree. Do what you got to do, girl. And then when I had to get up and go to work and I saw her still in the bed, sometimes I would be so mad because it's been so many times in my life I wish that I could have just stayed in the bed. I wish that I had somebody to finance me while I pursue my goals and my dreams. I felt like God loved her more. I saw how God favored my wife. And because of her faith, I saw how God moved in her life. And I wasn't there. Even though my jealousy did not turn into aggression, it's a lot of brothers out here who their underlying jealousy turns into aggression, and it turns into a very negative way of how you deal with women or your woman. And I'm just being transparent with y'all.
So I don't know if you realize this, but for men, and very few men can articulate this, but in my experience, when I've articulated this for men, they're like, yeah, that's true. She's always going to be the bigger giver. Like, I'm going to give you an example. The Talmud says, who's a bigger giver of tzedakah, of charity? The woman or the man? And of course, it's talking about traditional gender roles, but the point is the metaphor here. It says that a pauper comes to the door and he asks for something to eat. The man went out and he worked to buy flour and he brought home the flour. Can the pauper, the beggar at the door, eat flour? No. He eats the bread that the wife baked from the dough that she needed from the flour that the husband brought home. Now, I understand, don't get caught up on the particulars of this because it's a metaphor, because I understand today women go out and they work and they buy the flour as well. But what we're describing here is something existential about masculinity and femininity, that there's something about masculinity. He's the one who, so to speak, brings home the flour. He brings home the raw materials. But the raw materials themselves are not useful. Raw materials are raw materials. The woman is the one who takes raw materials and makes them useful. She puts them into a form that actually benefits people. Like I was saying before, she can't impregnate herself, but in the end, once she's impregnated, she's the one who delivers that baby, which is an incomparable upgrade. So she's always the one who ends up delivering, no pun intended, I guess, with the birth metaphor, but she's the one who ends up delivering that which is actually of value. So he's the one, he's getting upstaged. Because whatever he provides her, she takes it, she upgrades it, and gives it back to him in a far superior fashion to how she received it. So you understand, again, I'm not trying to get your pity, but you understand why that might be a source of insecurity for men. So, you know, in today's day and age, we're very much conditioned by certain messages about everything, really. So we may be further away from these truths, but that's why we have the teachings of the Torah to come in here and sort of just say, hey, these are the truths, and reality check. Sometimes it's helpful to get back to the things that are inescapable. If we don't know what's inescapably true, we end up having a lot of heartache, because when you're living in conflict with reality, even if you don't know that's the reality, it causes frustration. Do you understand now what I was saying before, that there's a certain inherent insecurity that a man has, that he's a provider and yet she's always going to be a greater provider, because what she receives from him, she upgrades it and gives it back to him?
The womb is the 0-point quantum field. What does that mean? It means that inside of your womb, you hold all potentials. You hold past, present, and future. You hold all of your Akashic records. You hold all the timelines. Infinite possibilities are living right now inside the quantum space of your womb. That is how powerful you are. That is how cosmic you are. That is the goddess that you are. You can literally manifest whatever you want inside of your womb at the speed of light, because you have that light inside of you. Your sexual energy is working all the time in the background, whether you're conscious or unconscious of it. Okay? It's not just when you're in the act. Your sexual energy is always alive. It's always alive. Okay? So I'm programming myself. I'm the architect of my own energy. I'm the engineer of my own energy. And so when I go inside of my womb and I say, hey, this is what I want, this is what I desire, do I have permission from, this is what I ask, do I have permission from all of life, all of source, all, the whole earth to receive this? And if you ask it with sincerity from your heart, and she shows you the answer in your life within a day, within 2 days, within a week, honey, this is how powerful you are.
I hope that you're feeling inspired. I hope that you're feeling not crazy anymore. You are as amazing and as powerful and as connected as you think you are. And whether it is being acknowledged by the men or even the women in your life, I'm here to affirm that that is true for you. You have an additional brain. This womb, not everybody got one of those. Not everybody has that portal for manifestation. And that's why a lot of men, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, feel triggered by that innate power that we have. Because for men, like you saw earlier in the video, they have to go and get it. They have to work really hard. They have to fight. They have to struggle. And you know this if you have brothers or if you have sons or any men in your life. Even as boys, they're always talking about fighting and competing and swords and guns and this and that. And that's because masculine energy, men, they live in a battlefield in their head. Like their body is a battlefield, their head is a battlefield, their emotions, life itself is something that they have to learn to wrangle and control. Whereas with us women, we just have to be and allow, and life flows to us. Our manifestations flow to us, good, bad, or ugly, right? Almost seemingly with no effort from us. When you can get whatever it is that you want with seemingly no effort, that's a flex. And that's powerful. And that's why sometimes men can feel like the chips are stacked against them, or world or life is stacked against them. And even some women can feel that way. And I feel like women, we get to that point whenever we forget who we are, we forget our power. And I'm here with these videos to help remind you of your power. When you are engaging with a counterpart who can feel intimidated or jealous or envious or angry with your power, it's important to know that so that you can move strategically, so that you can protect your energy where you need to protect it, so that you can invest that good manifesting power into people, places, and things that you want, not for what other people want and what they want to manifest in their lives, but for what you want. So it's strategic, We have to know who we're dealing with, ladies. We live in this world that is truly fueled by feminine energy. However, the masculine paradigm is kind of running at the forefront, and it's more of the negative aspects of the masculine. And it's important to see the truth of our counterparts, and it's that they are also powerful. They help. They really do help us a lot with so much. However, what they bring, we amplify. So it's important to have discernment on who you're allowing to bring what into your quantum field, into your womb, who you're allowing to enter your womb, who you're allowing to propagate their bloodline. It's really important. It's so important. And for my men who are watching, shout out to everybody who's been watching and who's subscribed and who's been showing me love. I love you so much. For the men who are watching who thought that my last video about how men harvest feminine energy was poo-poo, it didn't make no sense. You heard it from guys now. So now what, right? It came straight from the horse's mouth. I know that because of my power, you will say and do anything you can to get me to forget my power. You'll get me to hate my body. You'll get me to give away my body. You'll get me to not believe the things that I know are true in my heart. Don't listen to these guys. I advise you to, if you're hearing a man, either turn your ears off or listen to it with your lady ears, right? And the things that you feel are true in your body, because you know the truth by how it feels in your body, right? Hold on to the things that you know are true and throw away everything else, okay? Okay? And for my men, I want to continue the video of the rabbi to give you guys some encouragement on how you can use your masculine energy to pour back into women and to invest into women and to help them. And that is by knowing what your role is, right? In the paradigm of life, and that is to add provision, to provide, and then also to initiate. The best thing that you can do for a lady is to do what she's already gonna do for her before she does, to help take that load off of her so that she can keep staying in the quantum fields and creating that yummy, delicious magic that makes the world feel good. Initiate and provide. But that's just me saying it. Let a man tell you.
When I speak to men, one of the things that is very helpful to a man to understand is that, yes, it's true. You, men, whatever you give your wife, she's going to turn around, upgrade it, and give it back in infinitely upgraded fashion. But what makes you indispensable, I'm saying you, men, what makes men indispensable is that in a proper masculine feminine paradigm, the man is the one who gives first. So I always tell men, she's always going to upstage you if you're comparing who really gives more. But where you shine, men, where men shine, is in being the initiator. When you walk through the door, when you come home from work, and even if she was also out at work, doesn't matter, these things are inescapable. You walk through the door, and you feel beaten down by life. I'm speaking to men. A man feels beaten down by life, and he walks through the door, and he attempts to take emotional comfort from his wife. As much as she will try to provide it, it will not work. It will not work. Because that is not how masculine and femininity interact. I tell men, if you want emotional currency, if you want to receive emotional energy from your wife, the only way to properly get it in a way that is respectful to both of your inherent roles is that you, the male, invest in her first. And what that means, very, very simple terms, I tell men, even if you come home and you're beaten down by life, walk over to her and make a deposit, an emotional deposit. And the beauty of it is she takes everything you put into her and she infinitely upgrades it. So you don't have to give her a lot. You can give her 30 seconds of sustained eye contact and genuine interest where the phone is off. And if you just give her that deposit, you give her that emotional energy, she gets filled up with that. Like she becomes pregnant with that. And then she'll turn around, she'll give birth to infinitely more emotional energy, which will sustain the relationship and which will give you, the man, that emotional connection that you want. But the mistake that a lot of men make is they approach their wives as takers, and then everybody's frustrated and disappointed and heartbroken. But if a man can be the initiator, which means you make the first emotional overture, and even if it's tiny, it's okay. She'll take it and upgrade it and then put it back into the relationship, and then everyone will be happy. And that's what works.